Good afternoon. Welcome to New Independence Network. It is Tuesday, the 2nd of August. So, interesting things. I was looking at the web today, and I was very interested to notice there's been several of these stories, and they've added up over time, but I was focusing on three that happened as of late. Now, we all know if somebody says something and someone finds it offensive, they complain, and everyone else buckles. They fall all over themselves, afraid to offend anybody. It could be a comedian, it could be a teacher, it could be a student, it could be a parent randomly speaking in a store. If somebody says or does something that someone else deems offensive, everybody loses their minds. Let's take a look at three interesting stories just from today. Well, at least that I saw today. A Georgia police officer, this was out on Fox News US, a Georgia cop is unemployed now. She was fired because a man drove by her home. Now, here's a woman who has a house, and she's been flying a Confederate flag in front of her home for over a year. Her friends, her neighbors, no one has said a word or complained at all. Nobody. Until today, where a man drives by her house and reported the Confederate flag to authorities, and he found the flag to be offensive. Now, this woman is Sylvia Cottress. Older woman, been on the force for a while, right? She's fired. They fired her from the police force. She's a 20-year veteran, but they fired her because some stranger randomly drove by her car, her house, saw her squad car in the driveway, was offended by a Confederate flag, reported her, and she's done. Her career is over simply because she was flying a flag and one person was offended. Now, there's more. ABC News. Headline, student arrested for burping during class. I have to read this one too. A 13-year-old student in Albuquerque, New Mexico, was allegedly arrested for burping during class. According to his lawsuit, after he, quote, burped audibly, his teacher called the school resource officer, who in turn called the authorities to have him arrested for, quote, interfering with public education. He was burping. Now, he's misbehaving in class. I had kids in class who misbehaved too. I had a kid that sat in class behind me, and he burped, and the teacher thought it was me, and I was going to get in trouble, had to stay after class and do some extra work until the students stood up for me and said it wasn't him, it was this other kid. But they didn't call the cops. They just disciplined me. The question is why was he arrested? Can't teachers discipline children? Well, we're getting there. But no, they really can't anymore. Because if the teacher disciplined the child, then the parents would raise holy hell saying, "What are you doing to my child? How could you be so cruel? This is not your right. This is..." And then the kids getting off scot-free. So now the teachers are in a position where they have to call the cops, which is ridiculous. You also have liberal teachers who are afraid and offended by everything. You know, liberal teachers, they want to go and teach, but they don't really want to do anything else. But at the same time, parents have to raise their kids to behave themselves. I mean, it's a two-way street. You each got to work. Parents have to raise their kids at home. You get them most of the time. They're your children. Teachers need to make sure that the kid behaves themselves in school, and if the kid doesn't, then they have to discipline the child. But then the parent should say, "What the hell are you doing in class?" and kick their ass, basically. But you can't do that anymore because you can't hit a child. That's abuse. And this is where we're coming to. We're getting to a point of the nanny state. We're getting there. You have the nanny state where they're afraid to do anything to a child, to a person. You're afraid. Everyone's afraid to say a word, to look the wrong way, to make the wrong gesture. They're just afraid of everything. And if you hit your child, someone can see you discipline your child. And they can call the police and report you for abuse. And there you have DIFUS, Family Services, coming to your home to investigate when you've done nothing but discipline your own child for misbehaving. I got a swat on the bottom when I misbehaved. It teaches you lessons. My mother was Italian. Did wonderful things with a wooden spoon. Believe me. And when I got too big, broomstick. Just enough to scare the hell out of me. My father was just a big guy. He was as scary as it is. Didn't have to hit me. But the threat of getting the belt, go get the belt. Oh, that sent shivers down my spine. I walked the long mile of death to go to that drawer and pick the belt. He never used it. They used it one shot on the tail because I broke a window. One shot on the tail. Oh, whoopee. You know what? It teaches you discipline. It teaches you respect. But the parents nowadays, they're afraid to do anything. But I'm not exonerating the parents entirely. The parents have problems because parents are trying to be buddies. Not all parents, but a lot of parents. There's different types of parents. Some are afraid to do anything for fear of having the cops called on them. And sometimes the kids do it. I'm calling the police. Well, my answer to that question would be pack your bags. You call the cops, you're going with them because you're not staying here. But then there's those parents who are afraid of someone calling the cops. Then there's the other parents who want to be the buddy. They want to be the cool mom, like the cool mom from Mean Girls. I'm a cool mom. I'm not like the other women. I'm a cool mom. They want to be the cool mom or the cool dad. You can see them. The daughters call their moms by their first names. The moms allow their kids to get drunk and fool around and get drunk with their kids. It's ludicrous. They let the boyfriends sleep in the same bed as their daughters in the same house when they just started seeing the boy. No, but they're the cool mom. And that's where the kids have problems. That's where you have disciplinary issues. It doesn't work in all cases, but it happens in most cases. The kids don't understand that there is a line. There has to be a line between authority and friendship. There has to be that line. Cross that line, you lose respect. But if I'm cool to my kid, they're going to respect me more and I want to be liked. It doesn't matter if you're liked. It matters if they do what you tell them to do and grow up to be responsible adults. But these kids, they just do what they want to do. So you have a kid over here who's maybe having an issue in class. Maybe his parents are not raising him properly. He misbehaves in class. The teacher can't do anything about it, so she calls the police. Next one. A University of Houston student, you may have heard about this. She posted on Facebook after the shootings in, I believe it was in Dallas. She was the vice president of the Student Government Association. Vice president of the Student Government Association at the University of Houston. She was punished by the Student Senate for a Facebook post. This is a Fox News Insider. For a Facebook post that read, quote, "Forget Black Lives Matter, more like all lives matter," end quote. That's all she posted. She posts that. Her name is Rohini Sethi. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. She deleted her post, but the students went crazy. They complained. Someone was offended by that. The Student Government Association gave her a 50-day suspension beginning August 1st. 50 days of suspension for an education for which she's paying. She's paying for this education. How is she tolerating this? They're suspending her for something for which she paid? I better get my 50 days of money back. A mandatory attendance at a diversity workshop. Mandatory attendance of 3 cultural events per month. A reflection letter that she has to write, and a public presentation at the Student Government Association meeting on September 28th. I just can't fathom it. And if she refuses to or fails to meet of the requirements, any of them, they're going to kick her out of the Student Government Association entirely. You know what I'd say? Bye. See ya. It happened to me in school. And I went to a liberal college. My second college that I went to, a liberal college. Ithaca College, very liberal. Big time lib. I was a big time conservative at a big time lib school, so that was like oil and water. It was wonderful. I rubbed a lot of rhubarb when I was there, that's for sure. So we were doing a thing, shouting, it was called Primal Scream during senior night. You just open up your windows and let off steam and yell. And I was screaming, and some resident assistant, basically it's a glory, for those of you who don't know what a resident assistant is, maybe those of you who live in Hawaii who don't know a whole lot. Anyway, a residence assistant is a glorified college student with a badge, to a point. They basically get a free dorm. Usually they're post-grad or something, or upper class, usually post-grads. And they're basically, they're the monitor, the hall monitor, really. They don't really do much. They pretend like they're important, but they're not. You know, they're like the king liberal at a school for the most part. So this resident assistant was giving me hell, and through a closed door, I said, oh boy, she better, she keeps it up, and I'm going to egg her room. Joking around. She'll see how much of a threat I am to egg her room, or something like that. And then I opened the door to leave, and she's standing there. Now, this little thing, and I'm a big dude, she walks up to me with her arms folded, walks toward me. And I said, what can I do? What? You're going to eggs my door? I said, look, you don't threaten me, because then I'll just make a threat right back to you. That was typical young 20-year-old stupid stuff, right? Back and forth. Next thing I know, I'm being called into the resident director's office, the king of the dipshits, basically. The king geek, the king liberal. He brings me in and says, I want you to do an essay. Or no, I want you to do public service. And I said, no, I'm too busy. I have a very full schedule. I'm not doing it. And he didn't know what to do with himself. He said, well, then can you at least write a paper? I said, write a paper against the Primal Scream. I said, no, because I don't believe, I'm not against it. I'm not going to write about something for which I'm against. That I'm for, I'm not going to write something against something that I'm for. And later on, we had another incident where I was sent down to the big king, like the whole dorm director. And she says, I want you to apologize to this girl for what you said. And I said, I'm not apologizing because I'm not sorry for what I did. They didn't know what to do with themselves. They fell all over themselves because they never had, they're used to students just catering. Liberals are used to people just falling in line. Now, this is the mid to late 80s, or mid 80s, or mid 90s, mid 90s. So the liberal wasn't totally crazy yet. Now it's crazy. We're at a point, folks, where it's like Nazi Germany. It's like the Brownshirts that used to rat people out. This is what we've become. It is really what we've become. This is like this is not, or the early bird. What are you saying? How could you say Nazi Germany? It's a great correlation. You start by ratting out people for little things. These little things. This offends me, and that offends me, and everyone jumps through hoops to stop the offense. And then it gets worse. Next, you're gonna have he's using too much air conditioning in his house, or he's smoking in his home. He's not supposed to be smoking in his home. And then when if Hillary gets elected and she tries to take our guns, he's got a gun. And now you have everyone trying to get on the good side. See, they're trying to be the good people to stay off the radar. So they're going to rat out the other people. Because if they have to do it, everyone else has to do it. But they don't want to get busted, so they want to be on the good side. This is what's going to happen. This is where the liberalism is taking this country. You're saying, oh, you're overblowing it. Not at all. It's like a frog. The analogy that I've heard a number of times, it's a frog put in a pot of water. If a frog is put into a boiling hot pot of water right away, he'll jump right out. If you put a frog into a pot of water, room temperature, and you slowly turn the heat up, little by little, the frog's going to boil to death. and he won't get out. That's what's happening here. That's what Obama and liberalism, 8 years of that. We have kids now who are, these college kids here, 20, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. Guess what? Their formative years, 10 through 14, have been under Obama and liberalism for 8 years. Imagine 4 more years of it with Hillary. Could you imagine? Now you're going to have kids that are 10 now, or that are 12 now, 14 now, who've had 8 years of Obama prior, from when they were 6. They're going to be 18 years old, 14-year-olds become 18 after Hillary's done. Imagine 8 years of that. 12 years total of that. 12. These kids will be totally indoctrinated, brainwashed by the school systems, the liberal school systems, the propagandists, brainwashed by the DNC propaganda media, brainwashed by all this political correctness and this fraud global warming crap, which is absolute utter garbage. I'll do a whole nother podcast on that one. But this is where we are. So keep your eyes open. Someone's got to step up and stop this crap. Someone has to. Hillary Clinton can't get reelected because it's just going to get worse. That's why Trump seems so offensive. If Trump said the stuff he said today back in the 80s, no big deal. Even the early 90s, nothing. No big deal. Whatever. But saying it now, in this uber-sensitive climate, people are losing their minds, especially the libs. So, somewhere it's going to have to stop. Somewhere it's going to have to stop, and I really do hope that it stops within the next 4 years, because otherwise we're on a slippery slope and we're heading into a very bad situation. Okay, that's our update for today. This is New Independence Network. Have yourself a great rest of the day.